Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Renters in San Diego may soon have new protections from eviction. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The City Council is poised to vote on a proposal this evening aimed at keeping people in their homes. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen breaks down what it would mean for tenants and landlords.
In San Diego's competitive housing market, landlords often have the upper hand. Council President Sean Elo Rivera says the city has to do more to keep tenants in their homes, especially when they pay their rent on time and don't violate their lease.
These protections will provide significantly greater protections for hundreds of thousands of renters in San Diego and will undoubtedly prevent some of these San Diegans from falling into homelessness due to a no-fault eviction or from being displaced from the communities that they've poured their heart and souls into improving.
Here are some of the ordinance's main provisions. Tenants being evicted through no fault of their own would receive 2 months' rent to help them relocate. Seniors and people with disabilities would receive 3 months' rent. Landlords hoping to remodel their properties would have to get a building permit before evicting their tenant. And landlords would also face tougher penalties for violating the ordinance, such as having to pay their tenant's attorney's fees. These protections would take effect on the first day of a tenant's lease. Dozens of landlords turned out to oppose the ordinance, saying it would make it harder for them to turn a profit.
I'm encouraging you to rethink this ordinance because it will put mom and pops like us out of business. And, we do nothing but try to provide safe housing, clean housing, affordable housing, and it's driven by open market rents.
There are some exemptions to the ordinance, such as when a landlord lives in a duplex and rents out the second unit. Tenants' rights groups have argued the proposal doesn't go far enough and has too many loopholes. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
President Biden has formally announced his bid for re-election. And as Ivan Rodriguez explains, the president says he needs more time to realize his vow to restore the nation's character.
When I ran for president 4 years ago, I said we're in a battle for the soul of America, and we still are.
Tuesday morning, President Joe Biden launched his bid for re-election 4 years to the day he made his 2020 bid. In that presidential race, Biden's mission was to restore the country's character and prevent Trump from securing a second term. This time around, Biden says his work isn't finished.
The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead we have more freedom or less freedom, more rights or fewer.
The Republican National Committee quickly responding with an AI-generated video of imagined scenarios.
We can now call the 2024 presidential race for Joe Biden.
The president enters a race with a significant legislative record but low approval ratings. An NBC News poll conducted before Biden's announcement finds just 26% of Americans think Biden should run for a second term, and nearly half of those people who oppose a Biden run say his age is a major reason.
I think we should remember, we didn't think he could pull it off 4 years ago, and look what he's done.
Thank you.
Speaking at a union event, the president highlighted his work the last 4 years.
Finish the job. We just remember who we are. We are the United States of America.
As of now, Biden's advisors say the president does not intend to hold re-election campaign rallies until Republicans have a presumptive nominee. What Biden could begin sooner is a heavier schedule of fundraising. Ivan Rodriguez, KPBS News.
The race to replace Nathan Fletcher on the San Diego County Board of Supervisors is beginning to take shape. Today, San Diego City Council member Monica Montgomery Stepp announced that she will be seeking the District 4 supervisor seat. Fletcher announced he would resign following a lawsuit filed by a former MTS employee alleging sexual assault and harassment. Passengers who depend on minibus lines to get around could be hit by a work stoppage. First Transit, the company MTS hired to operate the minibuses, is currently in contract negotiations with drivers, but they have not come to an agreement. According to MTS, there are 18 fixed minibus routes, and there are about 3,000 passengers who regularly use the service. And many of them have disabilities and are unable to use regular MTS bus routes or trolleys.
It would hurt real bad, because then you'd walk to the grocery store, and that's 6 blocks. The reason I take it is convenience.
And First Transit says it's prepared to use other modes of transportation for these passengers in the event of a strike. Some middle school students in San Ysidro are learning important lessons about the changing job market. Their classroom today was an outlet mall at the Mexican border. KPBS education reporter MG Perez shows us more.
Estudia y trabaja al mismo tiempo. Otros tenemos varios trabajos, o sea.
Retail is an international language, and here at the Plaza Palmera Outlet Mall, shoppers from both sides of the Mexican border are always looking for bargains. These students from San Ysidro Middle School are here looking to learn. They are all Latino, and the majority of them are bilingual.
You can help different customers, not just like the people who speak English. Well, a lot of people speak Spanish, and it helps.
13-year-old Fernanda Salinas is one of the dozens of 7th graders who are visiting the mall as guests of the San Ysidro Chamber of Commerce. In a few hours, they tour stores that sell clothing, video games, and high-end merchandise. They are not here to buy. Sales associates and managers educate them on the reality of taking inventory, working long hours, and developing good customer service.
So they really are able to digest and learn more beyond just the items are available, and people get to shop and really talk about what it requires to open, close a door, and operate a store.
Although these students are not old enough yet to apply for actual retail jobs, they are old enough to know something about shopping and money. And now they know about new opportunities.
I thought of maybe being a chef at Paris, but it's just a dream.
Sebastian Vasquez is dreaming about Paris and aware of the reality he faces to get there someday. He's willing to sell clothes or whatever it takes.
Importa más el trabajo porque puedes hacer muchas experiencias que te pueden servir en toda tu vida para otros trabajos que te puedan pagar mejor.
After this day-long internship experience, there is time to reflect on what they can add to their practice resume.
Our kids need to understand all the possibilities. They need to be able to dream about them. And what better opportunity to come and look at them, and being able to make those connections themselves.
For these students, that dream job might not be so far away. MG Perez, KPBS News.
The U.S. Supreme Court is set to hear a case from Poway that could change how political discourse is regulated on social media. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Nguyen talks to 2 legal experts to explain what is at stake.
In 2017, 2 Poway Unified School Board members blocked comments on their social media pages from 2 parents in the district. Those parents sued, saying the blocking violated their First Amendment rights. A San Diego judge ruled in their favor, and last July, the 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals upheld that ruling. But a month earlier, the 6th Circuit Court of Appeals came to a different conclusion on a similar case. In that case, the court rules that a city manager in Port Huron, Michigan, did not violate a constituent's freedom of speech when he blocked the man from his social media page.
The issue in this case is whether a public official's social media page is an extension of the official's public office or an extension of the official's personal life.
Legal analyst Dan Eden says the case matters because if public officials can block constituents whom they find annoying, then it means they're insulating themselves from negative feedback.
This is a very important case because right now, we've got a Wild West with respect to social media in the sense that the rules aren't clearly established. The Supreme Court is about to take a step in defining some of the rules that apply when a public official has a social media page.
Eden says because the two cases are similar but the outcomes were different, it's up to the Supreme Court to decide the issue. While the cases are similar, there are differences as well. In the Poway case, the Facebook pages were campaign pages that the officials continued to use to interact with the public. In the Michigan case, the Facebook page had more personal elements.
An issue that we anticipate will be resolved in this case is when these public Facebook pages are public fora and when they aren't.
Matthew Halgren is a First Amendment lawyer at Shepard Mullins. He says this case will clarify the rights of the public to engage and criticize their elected representatives.
If they are public fora, the next question is what kinds of restrictions can be placed on them? And that is also an open question. Can users be blocked? Can their comments be deleted? Can the comments be hidden? So these are all issues that are going to be played out in the courts over the coming years.
The Supreme Court will take up the issue in the fall, and a decision isn't expected until spring 2024. Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
It's been 50 years since neighbors first took paintbrushes to the highway pillars in Chicano Park, creating the now famous murals. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson looked into the park's legacy and its future.
Chicano Park began with an almost broken promise. Logan Heights was a mostly Chicano community, segregated from the rest of San Diego by redlining. When the state built the 5 freeway and the Coronado Bridge in the 1960s, it divided the community in half. I spoke with the park's co-founder, Josephine Talamantes, in its newly opened museum. She still gets emotional about it 60 years later.
We lost 3/4 of our community, basically.
In exchange for this displacement, the city agreed to turn the land beneath the Coronado Bridge into a park. But when bulldozers arrived on April 22nd of 1970, they were there not to build a park, but a highway patrol station. A witness walked to City College and found Talamantes in her Chicano Studies class and explained what was happening. So they all left class, marching nearly 2 miles back, and blocked the bulldozers with their bodies.
We were going to create our own park because we had gotten tired of being disrespected and basically treated like we had no place in our own country. Within a matter of couple of hours, there was a couple of hundred people here. Yeah, it spread like wildfire.
Talamantes and a growing crowd occupied the park for 12 days before city negotiations began. The community won, and 3 years later, they began painting the murals for which the park is now famous. Over the years, industry and the Navy crept into the neighborhood, taking over the beach where many spent their weekends, occupying more than half of Barrio Logan, and creating some of California's worst air pollution. What remains faces a new threat.
What's left of this that has been infringed upon is now being viewed as a hip place to live. I mean, there was a property that just sold for $1.2 million here in the hood. You know, and so we're losing the last of our residents.
The younger generation is inheriting this ongoing battle of gentrification.
I've been here growing up long enough to see maybe like 10 different either stores or galleries shift out of what they used to be because people are being bought out. And not even just on Logan Avenue, but on the entire community.
While some Chicanos are being displaced, the park offers cultural pride to those who remain. Esquivias, now 19, grew up swinging in the park while her mother painted the pillars.
This was a space created for Chicanos. And I was lucky enough to have a mom who was a down Chicana. She had the foresight to teach me about the Aztecs, the Chichimecas, the Toltecas, and all of that history because everything we get in the education system here is very watered down.
Esquivias attended mostly white schools, where she questioned whether she belonged. She says the park gave her a space to learn about her own history and embrace her Chicana identity.
Coming here and seeing all of the pillars with people who are as brown as I am and darker, I don't know if I'll ever be able to put it into actual words, but it's just always a sense of joy no matter what. Like, there's no reason to be sad in the park.
Last year marked the end of a cycle of the Aztec calendar. The elders held a ritual to symbolize passing park stewardship to the younger Chicanos, led by Esquivias. The park committee is eyeing new projects, like an electric bus for elderly residents, and placing a lid on the freeway, supported by local leaders, including Congressman Juan Vargas. It would connect the community again for the first time since the 1960s. Under the pressure of gentrification, Talamantes says the park's message will always remain the same.
Aquí estamos y no nos vamos. We're here, we're not leaving.
Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
A new exhibit dedicated to one of the most well-known cartoonists in Mexico is open at the Comic-Con Museum in Balboa Park. Trino's World celebrates the art of Jose Trinidad Camacho, better known as Trino. The cross-border collaboration is the first time the Mexican cartoonist's work is being exhibited at the museum in the United States. Trino's work satirizes and celebrates the joys and absurdities of life in Mexico. The Consul General of Mexico says the exhibition uses art to build connections between the U.S. and Mexico.
Because it shows part of our way of looking at things. This is the cultural diplomacy at its best. It's soft power. It's a way to show what Mexico is and how, through the eyes of one of its most successful cartoonists.
Trino's career spans over 40 years and has published more than 20 books with his comic strips and his drawings. Last year, Comic-Con awarded him the Inkpot Award for his contributions to the world of comics. Trino's World will be on display now through July 5th. April is Donate Life Month, and today Rady Children's Hospital held a special ceremony celebrating successful kidney transplants. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman was there with teary-eyed nurses and families.
Since last year, 13 young lives have been transformed thanks to kidney donors. Kids and their families got their chance to ring Rady Children's transplant bell, celebrating successful operations. 6-year-old Brooklyn All was born with one kidney and it had a tumor nearby. After undergoing 4 rounds of chemotherapy, it was removed, but it left the kidney damaged. That's when her dad, Andrew, stepped in to give her one of his.
This is kind of like the last part of our journey, and so to be able to ring that bell was amazing.
Andrew says it was nearly 6 years of treatments before Brooklyn got her transplant in January.
She's an incredibly brave girl, and I think that's going to show when she's older. She has never once complained about going to dialysis, having to do dialysis, all the pokes that she's been given.
Now Brooklyn doesn't have to go through dialysis, which is a regular procedure to remove toxins, and she can focus on being a kid again. She loves playing chess, eating popsicles, and
she loves mazes, so my wife's really good at making
crazy ones.
We'll
do crazy mazes in the driveway. Yeah.
Not all transplants have to come from a living donor, but those kidneys tend to last longer.
We can give our time, we can give our energy, but to actually give an organ, that's unbelievable. And it really does change lives, and especially for kids. So kids are no longer tied to a machine.
15-year-old Merari Hernandez was diagnosed with kidney disease 4 years ago. She says being on dialysis sucked. Last year, she was able to get a transplant, and now
it feels amazing, not gonna lie. My mom always says that I'm like the bravest person she knows because I've been able to face the challenges.
Hernandez wants to become a nephrology nurse. They work with kidney patients.
I also want to help like kids who are going through the same thing I went through.
Kids typically wait 1 to 3 years to get a kidney transplant. Rady's officials say there's 28 kids currently on the waiting list. Families never forget the call saying the wait is over.
We were just sitting there like
watching a movie.
Yeah, we were watching a movie and we thought we were getting a call like for lab works or anything like that, but it was that call that we've been waiting for.
Kamal Davis has had 2 kidney transplants. His mom, Kimberly, can't thank donors enough for transforming her son's life.
How you feel about it?
Good.
Good. Yeah, we're excited, thankful.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
It's a group effort in towns along the Mississippi River in the upper Midwest. Laura Aguirre tells us about the risk of flooding in several states and what residents are doing to minimize the damage.
People need help, so we're glad to get down here and lend a hand.
In states like Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Iowa, people are pitching in to keep the mighty Mississippi River at bay. In Fountain City, Wisconsin, the coming hours will test their efforts.
The water is going to crest. We're predicting Tuesday night, so we have more water on the way.
Recent warm temperatures across the upper Midwest are melting snow and swelling the river. Some rural areas and waterfront parks are already underwater. The river is at 19 feet in Lake City, Minnesota, the highest point since 2001.
Now the concern is getting up. When do you pull the trailers? Does it happen, at 19 and a half, 20?
Residents here are preparing to move their homes to higher ground, not knowing when they might be able to return.
I'm concerned about my neighbors and my friends.
The river is not expected to crest in parts of Wisconsin and Iowa until later this week or even into next, meaning many towns may see flooded areas and washed out roads for days.
If there are roads that have been barricaded or blocked off, to not drive around those barricades and to never cross roads that are flooded.
For now, filling sandbags and helping neighbors will continue.
Seeing the way the community gets together and just finds out what they need to do and does it is really great to see.
I'm Laura Aguirre for KPBS News.
Several rural communities in Central California are facing the threat of being flooded out, and that's due to the recent rain and snowfall across the state. Managers of the Pine Flat Reservoir say water levels have become so high that they were forced to divert water away from Kings River. They expect to receive 3 times its capacity due to snow melt in the Sierra Nevada in coming months. They're concerned that communities nearby will be marooned or even flooded out by the rising river. Meanwhile, Yosemite National Park is closing Friday night because of flooding expected in the area. The closure is expected to last until next Wednesday, but it could be extended even longer. Severe weather hit Yosemite last month. The park had to close for 3 weeks when 15 feet of snow fell there.
We'll continue to see some milder air over the course of the next couple of days. Now, we are still talking about some morning low clouds, especially out of the coast, but less of that as you work your way towards some of the interior valleys. So we'll talk about those numbers. And yeah, it looks like a dry stretch of weather coming up over the course of the coming days. With that said, let's work our way into the overnight. Again, marine layers still looking at some of those impacts with an onshore flow. Clouds will be thickening. Low temperatures bottoming out into the upper 50s. Around Oceanside, 53. Chula Vista, 54. Back over the interior, less in the way of cloudiness around Borrego Springs, Mount Laguna as we fall off into the 60s and down into the upper 40s. Over the mountains, let's talk about tomorrow's forecast. Morning clouds, again, over some of those interior valleys, but the clouds will give way to sunshine. The clouds linger a little longer at the coast. Chula Vista up to 70 degrees, Ramona 81, and look at Borrego Springs. Yeah, we're going to be climbing here in the deserts over the course of the next several days. Here's a look at Futurecast, and notice how those clouds roll again right back in. There you see them toward the coast, some of those interior valleys first thing, and then the clouds burn off. Takes a little bit longer out toward the immediate coast. And speaking of rainfall, well, it's been a dry month, but this is typically the trend or the trend that we see as we go from March into April. Less in the way of H2O, only around 1/10 of an inch so far this month. Of course, going back to March, we saw a surplus with a whole lot of precipitation. We're not going to be adding to this anytime soon. Out of the coast, like I said, morning clouds and then turning out sunny the next couple of days, gradually rising up into the mid-70s Friday into Saturday. Some of the interior valleys looking at more sunshine here the next couple of days, less cloudiness, peaking near 90 on Friday. Wow. Into the mountains, a little cool the next couple of days, climbing up through those 60s as we work our way into Friday and Saturday. And the heat is on. Wow, look at the desert forecast here. Upper 90s, close to the century mark as we go from Thursday into Friday and right into the upcoming weekend. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Justin Pavic.
There's a growing effort to stop beachgoers from getting dangerously close to the sea lions in La Jolla. Point La Jolla is closed from May through October during sea lion pupping season, but a local group is calling to close the area year-round. Reportedly, the city doesn't have enough staff to keep sea lions and people safe, and the Sierra Club Seal Society says many people do not understand how dangerous sea lions can be.
They can bite, potentially. They have sharp teeth. If two males are charging each other because they get territorial and there's a child in the way, that's extremely dangerous. You're talking about an animal that weighs 800, 1,000 pounds.
So if the proposal goes through, the area that would be closed would be the rocky bluff between Boomer Beach and La Jolla Cove, but visitors would still be able to stand on the walkway from a safe distance. Council member Joe LaCava plans to present the proposal in the fall. We have an exciting update to a story that we brought you last month. A Carlsbad fourth grader was declared the winner of a nationwide NASA competition where kids imagine ways to explore space. Luca Polak, who attends Pacific Rim Elementary, won top prize in his age group in NASA's Power to Explore Challenge. His proposed mission is to send a spacecraft to Europa, one of the moons of Jupiter. There it would land on a frozen ocean and then search for life below the ice. His prize will be a visit to NASA's Glenn Research Center in Cleveland for a VIP tour of its research facilities. So we congratulate Luca. Well done. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.